Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Jack Ryan, Season 4, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the Chow Fa situation, where obviously Tintin is looking at him, because he recognizes, all eyes are on me, and we also see a part of their operation, which I guess, considering the criminal enterprise that it is, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised that human trafficking is a part of it. Now, because of some stuff that Wei said, I'm curious, is it implying Chow's wife, Ki, was human trafficked as well, maybe? I don't know if that was what that was implying. That's what I was kind of wondering if that's the case. But obviously, I don't know if it's a thing of, because it felt like it was a personal connection he had with all those women that were being trafficked. So that's what made me think that. But it might just be just doing this for so long and just seeing the nasty side of this business, it just weighs on you. Because I don't know if it's a situation, and I brought this up previously, of what Chow's connection to the Silver Lotus Triad is. Is it a situation of, I was born into this, I kind of came into it when I was young and had no choice, and now that I'm older, I have a wife, I have a child, I see things differently, and that's why I want it out. I'm curious how that goes. But you could tell, seeing all those women hit Wei as well, so that's what makes me think, especially with him saying the line of, I remember where we came from, and if it's choosing between my sister and those women who are being trafficked, you know what my choice is going to be. So, I don't know if it's a situation, the implication might be, well, I was about to say not unless the implication is, if you go against the organization, not only, will, Ki not get, she won't just be killed, they traffic her, maybe that's what that's kind of implying, but, that's because the way Chow and Wei reacted made me feel like it had to be a personal connection, and I think Ki is that person, but I could be misreading that situation. But now it's a thing, Wei knows something's up, but, Chow's reluctant to tell him because Ki's right, my brother all he wants to do is protect me. He has my best interests at heart, which is yeah. Because he was my sister's the most important thing. And Chow's yeah, that's something we agree on. So he knows something's not right. And so Chow's right, we're under so much scrutiny because they're looking for a mole in this whole operation. They are going to have all eyes on me, so we can't leave now. But for Ki, it's I hope that's not our only chance of escape. It's I'm going to have to make Teton believe that I am loyal to the cause, that I'm about this, that I'm not a mole, that I'm not a traitor. And he doesn't want to include Wei because he's simple. I guess because he knew how Wei was really going to react to it. Because Wei's right, I'm not stupid. I know what's going on. I checked with security. My sister and your daughter left. Which I'd also brought it up previously. I think in the first episode, I was wondering whether or not they were family. He did reference his sister or whatever. So that for a reason in my head, I associate with is that supposed to be a father-son relationship? But it never clicked in my head that but I was maybe it's just maybe you know each other's families. It never clicked in my head oh yeah, that's your brother-in-law. That never crossed my mind because I thought he was young. In my head, I was thinking who knows how far apart the actors are in age? They're probably actually closer in age than I kind of would assume. And so when he said your sister, I was I thought he was talking about, I said, maybe I'm your dad or something. I know I'm stupid. That's kind of how I initially read it. But then when we met his wife, I was maybe, like I said, maybe they were just family friends. But either way, when the time comes, Wei's yo, I know what you're doing, and I will give you an opportunity. How I'm going to help you out is I'm going to let you go. And the moment he's stressing that I will let you go, he's let me leave. It's what about my wife and daughters? They have to stay. It's if they're here, I can protect them. But that's also the thing of, if you would assume if Chow ran, even if he were to leave his family behind, even if it's it'll be safer for them. No, because they will always be under scrutiny, and I will always be, because him being there is the only thing keeping them safe. If he leaves, they'll be the ones that suffer the ramifications. In fact, they'll probably use his family to get to him. But in Wei's perspective, it's I'll be here to protect them. I'll keep them safe. So but it's like, right, you could come with us. And I think that's going back to the point of what Chow Fa was saying of like, yeah, he's simple of like, he just sees this of like, hey, I'll keep my sister here and protect her, not thinking the larger picture of like, right, the ramifications that they may suffer that even you won't be able to protect them from, because most likely they will kill you and then they will kill my wife and my child. So, you're thinking of things so simple and you're not, I think kind of like your middle management, you're not able to see the bigger picture here. Like, once again, we don't know what his connection and all of this is. Like, because like I said, it seems like based on what he said, like, oh, where we came from. They had a pretty rough upbringing. I guess being part of the Silver Lotus Triad gave them a way in. And they were able to kind of have a decent enough life. And he does it like, right, my sister always being on the run, not ever feeling safe, never feeling at home. Like, it's a sad thing, and I was like, Chow was like, no, we'll go with what you're planning. I was like, obviously you're not going to leave your wife and child behind, so what are you going to do? And the moment the camera zoomed out, I was like, please don't tell me you're going to do, and pop. I was like, man, he killed his brother-in-law. How is that going to sit with your wife? Now, the thing is she willing to, it's so interesting too, because like sacrifice and compromise is an element of this episode. And I guess at the end of the day, it's an element of the season, which we'll get to in a second. But I wonder, will she be okay with that? Or will Chow Fa lie and be like, yeah, it was the Silver Lotus. Tintum believed it was your brother. Luckily, he's not on to me, but he thought it was your brother. So it gave us an opportunity. She'll probably be able to figure out that he will lie. Like, she'll probably hear him say that, but know that he's lying. So, I don't know. Now, I mean, your desperate attempt to, like, protect your family and save it's like, I'm curious, will Chow Fa even make it out of this season? Will he die? Like, at least he could owe it to his sister. Owe it to his wife. It's like, right, did what I did to your brother. So at the very least, I need to make sure you're okay. And maybe he'll self-sacrifice himself. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Will he tell her the truth or not? He owes her the truth, but whether he'll tell her the truth now, maybe he'll wait till tell her the truth until after this is all over, or he'll go to his grave never telling her the truth. Well, like I said, just have to wait and see. So, on the conversation of sacrifice and compromise, we have Wright and Ade. I didn't pay attention. His name is Adebayo. I was like, oh, interesting. Like his full name. I just kept referencing him as his middle name. Obviously, like, I want to say Peacemaker is the first time I'd ever, like, because I just saw the name written out and was like, I never saw Adebayo from, I can only assume that's how you pronounce it. I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because I was like, it's not important. It was just something that was going to run through my mind. But anyway, Ade is talking to Wright, because they're both on their way to Lagos to meet the current president, Okoli, and Ade didn't grow up. Well, he was born in Nigeria, but he wasn't raised there because obviously there are a lot of issues in the country. And he's like, yeah, I've even witnessed my own father getting murdered in front of me. And he's like, the missionaries came there, raised enough money to kind of help repair our village and stuff. And he went off and kind of got an education somewhere else. And so he has a very different perspective on the whole situation. And he says that basically Lagos' situation could be broken down into like three different things of the former president that was assassinated, Udo, the current president, Okoli, and the warlord. It's kind of like how that's kind of broken down. Because he was like, right, here's the president who kind of wanted to change things, but here's also the current president who is so starch in his standing of, right, this is the values that Nigeria needs, and that him and Okudo like believe the same things, but it's like they're both unwilling to compromise, because for him it's like without compromise, Ade's perspective is that Nigeria can never evolve. It's like we're going to be so stuck in the past of who we've been and what it has always been, not evolving and changing with the times. It's like old values are what's leading this country, and but once again, something about the dude just doesn't sit right with me. Like, I'm not sure if we're going to find out he's the one behind all of this, but that ends up being an important conversation that Wright ends up having with President Okoli. They had this whole conversation about, it's like, right, a person in her position, someone of her color in that position, especially in her country. And it's like, yeah, it's it's isolating. It's what was the word she was looking for? I mean, not looking for, like the word I'm looking for. She said like she was obviously weighed, the positives and the negatives of it. But they also have a sit down with the warlord because all three of them are there. Or is like, right, the CIA had nothing to do with President Udo's death, but the warlord's like, I had nothing to do with it either. So it's like, we have to come together to try and figure out what happened. And Ade makes this point of like, right, I think it was him and Wright who made the point of the president is caught between two extremes, kind of like holding on, being very like dug in on like the old traditional values that him and the previous president represented, and then like the warlord at his interest and stuff like that. So, like I said, I just feel like Ade might have something to do with it. Once again, it's like it's got to be someone in plain sight that's a part of this. But would he be higher up? Well, because it seems like. Because my thought was, whatever the situation in the law goes, it has to end up connecting to what's happening with Mexico and Myanmar with the whole Silver Triad and cartel situation. It feels like those have to correlate, but maybe it is on its own. Because once again, Miller had multiple operations going out, and there was like, my thought was that the Lagos was one thing, and then like the Mexico situation was another, but then I thought like, oh, maybe they're disconnected. Then I was like, maybe they are connected. And I'm still unclear, but it's like that storyline feels like you tell it's connected. I just don't fully see how, because we still are unaware of who's the team that actually pulled off the hit, and for we know why, but to a small degree we know why. We don't know in the grander scheme of things why. So that's going to be interesting to see. Another angle to this episode is that Jack resigned as the deputy director of the CIA. It's like there's too much scrutiny, there's too many eyes on me, and with me in this position, all that does is going to compromise Wright, especially after her confirmation and everything. It's like, right, she even still describes herself as acting director because I guess it still hasn't been like official, like even the confirmation, like I don't know if they've like officially, it's probably like they have to come to their own decision. So we're still in this territory of it could all get snatched away from her. So they have to, that's why Jack is keeping his distance. It's like, right, by resigning, I can make sure that Wright stays where she is because she's good for the job. She's the right person for the job. And I don't want me being the reason why that's all kind of taken from her. Plus, I think without the reins of deputy director, Jack is able to do what he needs to do. Even later on talking to Wright about it, she's like, because of my position, I can't. But he's like, no, I get it, but I can. United front. You handle things on that side of things, and I'll handle things on the way that only I can in this position. So, but at the end of the day, Greer gets the position because Jack told the president to kind of give it to him, which is like, hey, you're qualified for this. And it's like, yo. And it's so sad because the timing couldn't be worse. He shows up at his son's game and his son's happy to see him, but then it's like, right, here dad goes again. It's like work always got in the way. And they even had this conversation later on where he's trying to talk to his dad, and Jim is like, yo, you won't believe who called. And he's like, who was it? He's like, it was like, it shouldn't matter, should it? It's like, that's the sad thing of like, no, it was the president. And it's like, I mean, yeah, that's cool, but it probably wouldn't have meant anything to your son either, but because it would have just been a further excuse. And for him, it's like, right, I've given my son enough excuses. And it's like, he has every right to have a chip on his shoulder because he's like, yeah, it's the same old bullshit, huh? It's like, your job always got in the way of your family. It's like, of course, once again, his daughter seems more receptive than his son, like maybe because his daughter was a little bit older, and, I mean, it's a thing of like, I'm sure one side of your brain is like, yeah, I can understand, but he also knows like, right, his dad's job got in the way of his family. It's like, not only your situation, relationship with me got compromised, like our entire family, like we put on this farce, like, oh, we had dinner together, but it didn't mean anything. It's like, right, you're going to leave again. With his position as the director of the CIA, deputy director of the CIA, he might be able to be, it's still going to probably be that thing if he gets called away a lot. So that's probably, but he might give up the position by the end of the season. Maybe not. We'll see. But on the Jack front, no, let me finish up with Greer. I love that whole stuff with him and Patrick. How later on, like when Patrick was getting his coffee, and he saw Greer and he kind of stopped him in his tracks, and Greer's like kind of waving him over, and he bumps into the guy. He's like, "Oh, sorry," and it's like, "Okay, I want you on top of this situation because they're trying to figure out obviously how this all connects." Because I think there was a number from Miller that connected to this company, which it's the company we saw at the very beginning of the season that Walters was at when he was making the call for the whole situation, the whole operation in Lagos. He was at that place. I didn't talk about this, and I should have. The actor who plays the guy behind the desk, he played he was in Animal Kingdom season 4. He was Julia and Pope's dad. I was like, oh, dude, that's great. I forgot to talk about that in episode 1, but since he popped up again, it reminded me to talk about that. But either way, my point was I love how uneasy Patrick was about being there with Greer. To be fair, it's like, well, Jack is one thing. It's like, yeah, he's like the deputy director and everything, but that used to be your colleague, so you have enough of a rapport with him where it's still kind of awkward, where it's like, oh, I'm caught between my rapport with you and you being kind of like super high up in the food chain now. But then there's also the fact is like Greer was your boss and he was nerve-wracking to work with, and now he's in this high position as deputy director. He's still nerve-wracking to work with because of who Greer is, because of his personality. And it's just like, right. Also, you want to lay off the decaf, and it's just kind of Patrick being like, yeah, okay. It's just like how nervous he is. I love it. Because he's going to be the one looking into the phone records, connecting like Miller and the whole, I forgot what the place is called. It's called Biz something, but, cause so many businesses work out of there or something like that. And it's like, right, it changes from week to week. So Greer is getting closer, which led to Walter showing up at his house at the end of the episode being like, yeah, stop. Like, he's deputy director, so it's going to be a little easier, not as easy to bump him off. So it's like, hey, I'm going to threaten you. Because it's like, right, Miller already died. Obviously, there's a lot of intention on this. Like, if I kill you, like, there's enough people connected to this, because he knows, like, it's not just Greer. Ryan's looking into it, and most likely the president's been read in on about it. And so, so is, like, Wright knows about it. So it's like, there's too many people who know, so you can't kill Greer. But it's like, oh, I know that this isn't your real house. We both know where your real one is. Even being like, yeah, your son, he shouldn't talk to you like that. It's like, so he was listening in on Greer's conversation, and it's like, right, you're threatening my family, right? You could tell Greer's like, all right, motherfucker, I got you. It's like, yeah, we're going to have some exchanges, so, because he got the go-ahead to do that. Once again, Miller said, like, oh, Ryan is official, but like I said, my thought at the time was, I thought, like, oh, it's a go-ahead, like, take out Ryan, but it's like a no of, like, I guess it's like Ryan is looking in this in an official capacity. It's him sneaking around. Nothing had been official yet, but now this whole, like, investigation is official, so... Like I said, I thought that was them putting a target on Ryan's back, being like, yeah, the go-ahead is you can pull the trigger on him, but no. Well, once again, that could be I could have been right before and I'm wrong now, or maybe I was wrong before and I'm right now about what that means. Maybe it's a combination of the two. But either way, they end up tracking down Domingo, because they're like, right, the only person who can be, now that Miller's gone, the only person who knows what's what is Chow Fa, so they need to get to him. Only way they're going to be able to do that is through Domingo. They end up finding Domingo, in particular Mike does. I love that they both have their guns drawn in each other. It's like, yeah, he said you'd probably be like kind of got angry easily or whatever. It's like, who? Ryan. It's like, yeah, he saw that tattoo on your arm. It's like, yeah, the church keeps really good records. It's like, wow, he's really good. It's like, yeah, he is, but let's never let him know that we said that. Mike's like, I'm not about to let that go to his head, that I agree that he's really, really good. Like, he picked up on something like that, and let him know how to track down Domingo, because Domingo went to go see his uncle, because it's like, right, the cartel will come after you, because they'll think, just to get to you, just to get to me, because they'll think I betrayed them, so... And it's like, oh, who's coming after you? It's like, your son. And I don't know if that's, like Marquez and like, well, because, no, it has to be like Marin, right? I'm about to say, like, Marquez isn't the family, like, member, I think, well, I know, because, Marin's the cousin. I I think in my head I was thinking Marquez was a cousin too. I mean, maybe he could be, but I think he's just the head of the cartel, and Marin was his way in. I think that's all it was. I just in my head I kept thinking like Marquez was also like his cousin or whatever. But either way, so Jack meets with them, and they set up. They had the Federales bust one of Marin's operations just so that they could draw him out into public. Which I love that it's like Mike being like, "Oh, I always wanted to be a Federale." It's the CIA was second on the list, huh? And Mike's like fourth, and Jack's looking like he wants to know what second and third is, and I'm like, I guess we will never know. I'm like, what is that, Mike? What was second and third? Was that like another like law enforcement agency in some capacity, or was it just some other completely different careers? Like, what is 2 and 3? I'm curious if that's something that, I mean, obviously these are characters from the Tom Clancy book, so I'm curious, is that kind of something where it's almost like he's had multiple job professions? Like, if you've ever seen the show Bosch, like those books cover like, Bosch has always been so many different things. He's been in so many different departments. But either way, Domingo and Chow are both kind of got this perspective of we can't reach out to the other one because, like, right, eyes are going to be on each one of them, so they've got to find another way. And in Domingo's mind's like, right, I'm going to send up a smoke fair. Oh, how am I going to send up that smoke fair? By going to his operation of the Silver Triad and kind of burning it down, every ring of the operation on that totem. And I also thought it was interesting how Mike and Jack just let Domingo do his thing. It's like, well, he's not about to kill his cousin, regardless of the circumstances. Go and put all that like plastic wrap around his head, and it's like, cool. You're gonna give me the information I want. Cool. And ended up taking his phone, and it's like, right, you can't stop what's coming. And it's like, yeah, but I can cut off your thumb if it's easier to kind of get access to your phone. Which he saw a number, which I immediately was like, does he recognize that number because he's been in direct contact with Chow that way? Because I was like, how would he know that? I was like, not unless it's because he was there when Miller was on the phone with Chow, so maybe he saw in his phone record, so that's how I recognized the number. But it might just be like no, I know because that's the same number Chow's calling me through. So it's probably like, oh, I could pretend like I'm Marin calling you to kind of get in contact with you. So obviously those storylines are colliding because they're heading to Croatia because that's where the market where they met, where Marin met Chow Fa is at. So that's going to get them closer to Chow Fa and hopefully toppling all of this. So we're at the half point in the season. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up. Oh, before I even wrap up, I forgot. I was all like, cause kind of just like the Lago situation, like I definitely feel like that's definitely going to lean into something, but there's also the, Kathy of it all, cause she's with, Ziara, and maybe it's just because of the state of things. It feels like that plot thread is going to tie in because, Ziara, it's going to Kathy about like, right, the WHO, can help out with like the Myanmar situation of like, though I forgot what she called them, but it's a place of like drugs and trafficking. She was like, yeah, the places they all kind of work out of, it's called like the Machine. And I think her mom was a part of that. And she was like, yeah, my mom died very young. And, she wants to kind of fight about something like that because not a lot of places will do enough. Like, it's like, oh, there's certain places that are forgotten parts of the world that she wants to like take money to and look after. And for her, it's like, the WHO are the only ones who have the power and position to actually do something about it. So that's where that's where Kathy's story ties in. But the fact is that it's like that ties into Myanmar. Like, I mean, it could be, it just feels too coincidental. So that's why I'm like, are those, because once again, that feels like that plot thread was kind of on its own, but it's like, okay, but it's thin, but it's definitely going to ultimately not ultimately, it definitely seems like there's a high probability. I mean, everything typically does end up connecting, so I mean, obviously her storyline in season 1 ended up heavily Kathy's storyline in season 1 ended up like overlapping with what was going on with Jack's story, so I could see like a similar thing happening here. So that's why I'm like I said, it's just like because the show, things are kind of meant to make you a little cynical where you're just like, I don't know who to trust because I'm like, Ziara seems like a good person, but I'm honestly like, I got this weird feeling about Ade, but I don't know about Ziara because now I'm like, what if she's kind of a bad person too? It feels a little too like coincidental. It's just like, right, she's bringing up Myanmar and Kathy's getting drawn into that, and obviously, like, Ade goes with Wright. It just feels like he might be behind the Lagos situation. So they might be part of a larger group, or maybe they're kind of middle management to whoever that Walters responds to. Or I don't know. There's just too many unknown factors at this point. But yeah, now that's kind of everything right now. But we'll ultimately see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.